Hello, America. Welcome. It is Erick Erickson here. Delighted to have you with me. The phone number, if you want to be on the program, 877-973-7425. You can text the word data, D-A-T-A, to 33777 and get the show notes. Will be coming to your inbox momentarily. All the stuff that we're going to talk about today. I got to begin with the executive orders. In particular, you know the executive order I have to begin with. It's not actually an executive order. It is specifically a constitutional power of the President of the United States. Article 2, Section 2, Clause 1 of the United States Constitution gives the Chief Executive Officer of the United States of America the pardon power, and Donald Trump used it yesterday.
Sir, first we have a list of pardons and commutations relating to events that occurred on January 6, 2021.
Okay, and how many people is this?
I think this order will apply to approximately 1,500 people, sir.
So this is January 6th, and these are the hostages? Approximately 1,500 for a pardon?
Yes.
Full pardon?
Full pardon or commutation?
Full pardon. We have about 6 commutations in there where we're doing further research.
Okay.
Nice to see you again.
And these gentlemen.
There he
So this
goes.
is a big one.
Hearing sign.
Anything you want to explain about this? We hope they get them, we hope they come out tonight, frankly. We're expecting it. Approximately 1,500 people, six commutations.
6 commutations, pardons for 1,500 people. The press outraged. The Democrats outraged. Myself, I think some of the people getting pardoned shouldn't have been pardoned. I think 2 wrongs don't make a right. But you'll forgive me for there being no outrage in my voice. Yeah, I think some of the people were bad actors on January 6th. I think some were grandmothers and grandfathers and young people who wandered in, because back in the day you used to be able to wander into the Capitol. So they saw a commotion, they went in. I think others got swept up in the moment, carried away in the moment. And they did bad things. And I think some were really malcontented souls who took advantage of the situation to go in and intended maliciously to do harm. And I think they should stay in jail. I think the ones who assaulted police officers should stay in prison. But who cares? On his way out the door, Joe Biden pretty much acknowledged his family was an ongoing criminal enterprise. He pardoned them all on the way out the door. You want me to get upset? And you know, I said this yesterday. I actually used the middle finger emoji on Twitter and said, I'm sorry, but for those of you who really were giving Joe Biden a pass and now upset, here's the middle finger to you. I mean, that's what's happening. That's what I think. People are like, but they're all wrong, Erickson. They're all bad. They're all bad. You don't have to I'm not justifying it. I recognize that some of the people who got pardoned last night should probably stay in jail. And you know what? I don't really care at this point. Because what I have found is that everybody wants me to care greatly about everything Donald Trump does, and not a single damn person who gets worked up about it ever cared what Joe Biden did. Why do I have to get in high dudgeon all the time? Donald Trump does, what about? You know what? Yeah, some of them should have stayed in jail. I don't care. Joe Biden just pardoned his entire family. And notice how quickly the media moved on under the excuse of, well, he's not president anymore. Y'all are giving him the exact same amount of coverage you gave him for 4 years when he was the president. You don't care. You don't want to cover it. You don't want to have to acknowledge it. You don't want to get Democrats on to criticize him. You want to move on to Trump. You want to move on to January 6th. And oh boy, are they. Here's what's his name, that police officer who turns out to be a serious lefty on with Anderson Cooper last night.
I just heard the news from your producers a few moments ago. I mean, the only thing that that's going through my mind right now is that this is what the American people voted for. Donald Trump has been promising these pardons ever since he announced his candidacy in Waco, Texas, the scene of one of the most notorious battles between American law enforcement and the American extremist movement that resulted in the death of numerous law enforcement officers. Thanks, America.
This feels like a betrayal to you.
Oh, I have been betrayed by my country.
I have been betrayed by my country. No, you haven't, you arrogant, fatuous peddler of nonsense. You have not been betrayed by your country. You know, the voters were betrayed by Joe Biden. The voters were promised a return to normalcy. Joe Biden told them, I would never do anything like this, and he did. If you're upset, be upset with Joe Biden and the Democrats. Isn't it remarkable how the left, they can never be upset with the Democrats. It's always the American people. You stupid Americans did this to me. You betrayed me. No, the Democrats and members of the media, who this guy's not upset about, covered for Joe Biden for 4 years, gave him a pass on virtually everything. On his way out the door, he commutes and pardons his family and a bunch of other people. No conversation at all. We got to move to Trump. We got to be angry about Trump. Listen to this mind-numbed idiot on MSNBC.
It was interesting to me. I was texting with a lot of Democrats from across the country, state legislative leaders, because this fight is going to be in the states. As much as we look at Congress, America's policy is made in the state legislatures. And one a senior Dem state legislator from out west texted me and said, he literally just let his private militia out of jail. He said he's instilled a sense of loyalty. These people feel loyal to him, and their lawlessness is now going to go unchecked, and he can now call on them again to do what they would like.
Oh, good Lord! This is what you get on MSNBC, where they're trying to foment, after years of trying to get Donald Trump killed. I guess they're now trying to foment some sort of insurrection. They are not well. Listen. It doesn't matter how much I tell you, I think some of these people should have stayed in jail. It's not going to matter. The left refuses to acknowledge what Joe Biden did on his way out the door was a terrible breach of norms. So why should I get worked up? Why should any of you get worked up by this? Donald Trump kept a promise. He's been telling people for months, for a year, that he was going to do this, and he kept his promise. You should be excited. We actually have a president who kept his promise, unlike Joe Biden, who promised to never do preemptive pardons and broke his promise. Why are you upset? And by the way, for those of you outraged by this, let me just go over to Scott Jennings.
Here's what I think. Were these people punished? Yes. Were they ruined financially? Yes. Did they spend time in jail? Yes. Have their lives been ruined? Absolutely. And one of you said earlier, Van or Axe, that you think this sends a terrible signal that you can get away with things like this, as though we've never had a moment in recent American history when people were not punished for rampaging around when they shouldn't have been. It was the summer of 2020.
Amen. It was the summer of 2020. Remember, in the spring of 2020, it was reporters, not Democrats. It was reporters. When small business owners protested wanting their businesses back open, it was reporters that said, if these people get COVID, they should be denied life-saving treatment. And then during the summer, these same reporters were like, well, it's their constitutional right to go out and protest. After all, look what happened. Yes, look what happened. Look what happened. The double standard from the press when it came to the summer riots, but it's the Capitol. It's the Capitol. You know what? Tell somebody it's the Capitol when it's their livelihood that got wiped out by race rioters in 2020. See if they really care about the Capitol that will be taken care of by federal government. By the way, it was the left that told us property damage is not violence. Y'all, there are going to be times in the next 4 years where Donald Trump does something boneheaded that I think is dumb, and I'll call him out on it, like trying to do an executive order on TikTok, a bipartisan law passed by Congress, upheld unanimously by the United States Supreme Court, giving him no power to try to postpone it, and that's exactly what he's trying to do. He should be stopped by a court. It's dumb. We should stop kowtowing to China. It is their surveillance and propaganda app, their indoctrination tool against American kids. We should shut it down instead of trying to make kissy face with China, which is what he's doing, whether you want to believe it or not. It's wrong. I'll call him out on it. But this, y'all, I'm sorry. I mean, Joe Biden walks out of the White House and pardons his family preemptively, pardons Mark Milley preemptively. What crime did Mark Milley commit? The chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, by accepting a pardon, is giving tacit admission that he committed a crime. What about Tony Fauci? What crime did he commit? Gain of function research, weaponizing a virus that then killed a bunch of Americans? Is that what he's admitting to by accepting a pardon from Joe Biden? You want me to get upset by this? I think he shouldn't have done it in some cases. But forgive me for not being really outraged by it after a 4-year outrage by the Biden administration that the media, the press corps of America, was complicit in covering up. Forgive me for not being outraged when the press corps can't be bothered to cover Joe Biden's behaviors on his way out the door because he's not the president anymore. They would rather talk about Donald Trump. The press is not going to learn to change. There are plenty of other great executive orders that Donald Trump did last night. They're outraged. But you know what? It's planned outrage, too. That's the other thing. You know, and I know, they knew this is what they were going to cover. Donald Trump has kept his promise. They weren't going to cover it as a term of promises made, promises kept. They were going to cover it in terms of outrage. And Joe Biden made it really damn inconvenient for him with his preemptive pardons of his family members, signaling his family has been the Biden crime family that everyone on the right said it was and the media dismissed. And yet the media doesn't want to go back and revisit and say, oh, perhaps we got that wrong. No, instead they just want to be outraged about Donald Trump and pardons they knew have been coming for a year because Donald Trump kept his promise. Whether I like it or not, doesn't matter. He kept his promise. You knew he was going to do it. And the hysterical level of outrage from Democrats and members of the media on it. Little Eric Swalwell tweeted out how outrageous it was that there has not been a day in American history where more cops were harmed in a single day. I was alive for 9/11, you moron. There was only one person who died that day. It was one of the protesters. Y'all, I'm sorry. I'm not going to play that game. And I really don't care that you, a Democrat or you, a Trump hater, are upset with me for not being upset. You don't get to control my emotions. I do. You don't get to control what I'm outraged about. I do. You don't get to tell me what I should or should not be outraged about because many of you don't know when to not be outraged. You live in a perpetual state of outrage, and members of the media are outraged about everything Donald Trump does. In the last 24 hours, Donald Trump has answered more questions and spent more time with the American press corps than Joe Biden did in 4 years in office, and the press is outraged because it's what they do when Donald Trump comes to power. They're just outraged about the outrage of Donald Trump getting elected. And to Michael, what's your name? The American people did not betray you. The Democrats and the press corps, complicit in the conspiracy to protect Joe Biden, betrayed you by keeping a derelict dementia patient in office for as long as they did, that they couldn't win re-election. And you want to blame the American people, sir? You want to blame the American people? Why don't you go check your ego at the door and try to rein it in? The American people didn't betray you. Why don't you find the people who actually did? It wasn't Donald Trump and it wasn't the people. Donald Trump kept his promise, and the people rejected the people who betrayed you that you're too stupid to realize betrayed you.
Want to be on the show?
Hello. I love your show.
Call Eric now at 877-973-7425.
Programming note for all of you, particularly those of you in the Southeast, Dothan, Robertsdale, Alabama, the Florida Panhandle, and in the state of Georgia. Governor Brian Kemp, just his team texted me about 2 minutes ago, said, "Can the governor come on and talk about this weather situation?" Yes. I'm looking at the radar right now, and snow is throughout the Southeast. So, New Orleans, Louisiana had for the first time in history today lake effect snow. That is the water vapor coming up. You know how when you see it steamy in the wintertime lakes, that comes up, freezes, turns to snow. New Orleans had that in hurricane force winds this morning. Those of you on KROF down in Lafayette, you are snowed in right now. I know my parents in north of Baton Rouge, Louisiana, have about 4 inches of snow on the ground. Lake Charles, Louisiana, you guys are completely overwhelmed. Same with those of you in Houston listening right now. Governor Kemp going to talk about this. I've got a bunch of affiliates in Georgia, and ironically, those of you listening on my beloved Vidalia. My gosh, do I love you people, not just because of your onions and the shrimp deliveries that I get from some of you. I love you, and you are going to get buried under in snow. Stay where you are. Use your four-wheel drive. I may get snowed in at my office because this is almost on top of me where I am, but I got four-wheel drive, so I'll be okay. And I got a haircut this afternoon, so I'm going to take a chance on the snow. But it is a dangerous developing storm. I'm looking at my radar right now, and there is precipitation falling lightly in the Atlanta area, in Sandy Springs, and it gets heavier the further south you go through the panhandle of Florida, where they're expecting blizzard conditions. Yes, you heard that right. Blizzard conditions in Tallahassee, Florida, which is unheard of. You know, I'm old enough to remember, well, 4 months ago when the New York Times reported there would never be snow again in the South. And yet, here we are. Now, they should have had the vision to realize something was better. Like Vision Computer, they can help you realize that you can get a better computer. They can make it easy for you. They can take your existing computer, take the hard drive, copy everything over to the new machine so everything is set up the way you like it. But you got a bleeding edge machine with the graphic power and the CPU that you need to handle modern computing, and you get their world-class 5-star customer service, where if anything goes wrong, you can call a very special private number, and 15 seconds or less, 24/7, they answer your questions. They can even remote in. They can handle email. They can help you with your printer. They can help you with servers, whatever you need. If you're a small business and you can't afford an in-house IT guy, you should call Vision. Call them at 404 Compute. And just for $179 a year per computer, they can be your IT solution. So you don't have to have the payroll for it, but you got somebody on call that can help you. And they can do this for your home or your office. Call them today. Tell them I sent you. You'll save even more money. 404 Compute or visioncomputers.com. 404 Compute or visioncomputers.com. Tell them I sent you. You'll save even more money. Welcome back. It's Erick Erickson here across the United States, but I'm also across the Southeast and have about 20 stations in Georgia. And I literally just made all of my employees at my office in Middle Georgia go home. I'm stuck. I got four-wheel drive. I think I'll be okay getting home after the show. But the snow is arriving where I am earlier than anticipated, and I can see it on the radar much heavier than what they expected to get. My parents in South Louisiana are at 4 inches right now, and it's still coming down with hurricane force winds where they live. Tallahassee's expecting 10 to 12 inches of snow. Those of you down in Vidalia listening to me right now, WVOP, you're going to get a lot of snow in Vidalia and Savannah. Joining me to talk about this happens to be the governor of the state of Georgia. Aren't you tired of these winter storms? Yeah, I mean, the two of you, I didn't even know Florida had snow plows. I knew we had some up in North Georgia. And by the way, I got to just tell you and commend you between Georgia Power and the state. I've seen utility trucks and snow plows headed south on 75 today, and even out my window seeing some head down I-16 in the last little while, repositioning. So good job getting stuff in place early. Well, honestly, as you and I are talking, it is snowing in Macon. I can see flakes now outside the window for the first time. It's light, probably not sticking right now, but I'm looking at the weather radar right now, and the Columbus area, Manchester, Americus, Montezuma, already starting to see flakes. It is kind of weird to think it's coming from the south to the north instead of north to the south, like every other one. So, Governor, before I let you get off here, and thanks for the spur of the moment reach out and to be able to get on. I'm happy to be able to do it. But can you just talk real quick before I let you go? The priority for brining the roads, I'm assuming it's like interstates and major highways. So we're not talking the road in your cul-de-sac in your neighborhood that the state's looking at. Well, look, I appreciate you stopping by. I won't take more of your time. I know you got a lot to do. Thank you for reaching out. You too. And for those of you listening, and again, y'all listen, I know we got folks in Sacramento, we've got folks in Anchorage. You guys in Anchorage have got to be laughing about this right now, or those of you in Illinois or Montana even. But just so you understand, in Georgia, we've got I-20 cuts across the northern third of the state, kind of the divide between the Atlanta area and south. And snow rarely reaches south of I-20. And today, I'm looking at the weather radar right now, and there is snow from the Florida-Alabama line up towards Atlanta. In fact, it's at a crisscrossing the state from Columbus, Georgia. It's snowing right now in Augusta, Georgia, Hepzibah, Sandersville, Wrightsville. Dublin is about to get snow. Where I am in Macon, Georgia, right in the geographic center of the state, the snow flakes are coming past my window right now, and the real heavy stuff is going to be falling in the next hour, so I may be stuck in the office. We'll see how my four-wheel drive works today. South of us, though, down into Florida, it actually is, as Governor Kemp was saying, he and Governor DeSantis yesterday were talking about the blizzard they were going to get in Florida. In fact, let me pull this up right now. I've got great weather applications here. And yeah, I can see that the Tallahassee is fine right now, but what is coming, I mean, as the governor was saying, it is literally snowing. Let me pull this up just so Fort Walton Beach, Florida, 25 miles south into the Gulf of America. It is still snowing. 25 miles out in the water, the radar is detecting snow. My parents are over in East Feliciana Parish, Louisiana. Y'all, my God almighty. Holy cow. I wish y'all could see this. The amount of snow. Those of you other in KROF in Lafayette, you are you're just getting y'all in Lake Charles, you're clear now. Lafayette, however, you are in the thick of it. Morgan City, New Orleans, really, really heavy stuff. Mom and Dad, it's clear where you are right now, but you're about to get hit with another heavy wave of snow. And y'all, this is the like south. This is the deep south. This is live oaks and plantations and pecan orchards, and those pecan trees. For those of us of the refined South, the pecan tree, because the pecan is something you flush, the branches are going to get weighed down with ice and they're going to start falling. And I realize, again, my apologies to those of you in Tulsa and Dayton and Connecticut and everywhere, but this is just, I have a massive number of stations in the South. And not all of them have weather teams that can do this sort of thing. And here I am in my office, literally watching snowfall. We haven't had snow in Macon of any measurable amount in several years, and suddenly it's here. And, this side note brings me to this issue of all the global warming climate change headlines of the last year, where constantly we've been told by the American media that the days of snow in the United States were coming to an end. And they try to have it both ways. It's climate change. It's winter. It's winter. And as long as I've lived in Georgia since 1993, came over to go to Mercer University, my alma mater. And the year before, the spring before I got to Mercer, they had a 14-inch snowbank on campus. It snowed so heavy. There's a pizza restaurant I go to. Everybody gets a laugh out of how I tell the story, but there's a pizza restaurant I eat at regularly called Ingleside Village Pizza. And if you go into the men's bathroom, they have newspaper headlines framed on the wall. And one of the newspaper headlines is how Macon, Georgia in 1979, I think it was, got 10 inches of snow. Shut the whole city down for a week because the snow never melted. Every 3 to 4 years, we get snow. We had the ice storm of 2011. We had Snowmageddon in 2014. We had snow in 2017. We're having snow now. It's not unheard of. It's just uncommon for the snow to come up from the Gulf of Mexico or Gulf of America now, as opposed to coming down from Canada. Usually it's a Canadian invasion, and now it's a Mexican invasion. of snow, and not the kind of snow that normally comes in from Mexico, if you know what I mean. So anyway, it's a big deal here in the South. We will see if I can get home this afternoon after I do the show. Now, why don't we do this? Why don't we go on and reset? I can do my commercial breaks. We can come back. We got people on hold. I have so much more beyond the weather that we've got to talk about today, including on CNN. I kid you not, I have the audio. They actually compared Donald Trump to Joseph Stalin. One of their analysts did. And on PBS, they're having a meltdown over Elon Musk, his one-armed hug that, it was a Nazi salute. Oh, give me a break. They actually said he went Sieg Heil. The reporter, I got the audio, or Hail Hitler. I got the audio for these people are losing their minds. And now they're attacking poor people for voting for Donald Trump on MSNBC. I got all the audio. You got to listen to it. I got your phone calls. Right now, let me tell you about Old Glory Bank, because they want to be your bank. They are my bank. And right now, by the way, Old Glory Bank is my bank. Member FDIC, equal housing lender, all that stuff. But if you're interested in an investment opportunity in Old Glory Bank, you can do it right now. They bypassed the traditional IPO route on Wall Street, and they're going straight to Main Street. You go to own.oldglorybank.com. Full disclosure, I did this. I did invest in the bank. I like the management team. I like the leadership. Mike, the CEO, is an upstanding guy. They took a bank in Oklahoma. They rebranded it as Old Glory Bank. They made it nationally available to people to use, and they are my bank. I have a checking account with them and a savings account with them, and I'm happy to help them capitalize. And they're trying to bypass, essentially, the progressives on Wall Street who buy up bank shares and then use their voting clout to force woke management practices. If you want to go to own.oldglorybank.com, OWN, own.oldglorybank.com, it's a unique opportunity for you if it's something you're interested in. See if it's a fit for you. Own and stock has risks. It's not FDIC insured. Stock goes up, stock goes down. Terms and conditions apply. Go check them out. Own.oldglorybank.com.
When the world seems crazy, he'll keep you sane. It's the Erick Erickson Show.
The phone number, if you want to be on the program, 877-973-7425. Let's get to the phones. Bill in Tulsa, who must be undoubtedly laughing at those of us with no concerns in the South. Welcome to the show. How are you? Good Lord. Mm-hmm. Isn't that funny? Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah, yep. That's that. Look, I agree with you, Bill, and it is amazing how essentially the entirety of the left wing operation these days has been to censor and bully. I mean, like for example, I said on Twitter, I'm sorry, I'm not worked up over these pardons, and the horde of angry leftists. How can you say that you call yourself a Christian? Like, look, it doesn't mean I agree with all the pardons, but I'm not going to get worked up about it. You people aren't worked up about Joe Biden's pardons. Why should I be worked up about this? Why should I allow Donald Trump to control my emotional state based on what he does or doesn't do? Good gracious. Eric in Edgewater, Florida, you're up next. Welcome. How are you? Thank you. Yeah, look, I mean, Eric, this is I would point out to every progressive who's upset about what Donald Trump has done with January 6 people. Donald Trump thought about doing preemptive pardons in 2020 and chose not to. He chose to respect constitutional precedent and not do it. He said when he got back to office he would pardon them, but none of them have been charged and convicted with crimes. He wasn't going to do preemptive pardons on his way out the door. Joe Biden chose to break the precedent. Joe Biden chose to defy historic constitutional norms, not Donald Trump. Donald Trump just kept a promise. By the way, there is a question as to whether or not it's constitutionally permissible. My sense of things is the power of the president to pardon is an unchecked power. That is, the president has complete unfettered ability to pardon. But the Supreme Court had said about 100 years ago that if you accept a pardon, you are admitting guilt. So by accepting the pardon, they're essentially saying, I committed a crime. And a pardon is not necessarily, it's a pardon can happen. There's historic precedent for pardons happening before someone is prosecuted and found guilty by jury. And this just ups the timetable. But Donald Trump, you may not like his pardons, but he's not shattering historic norms. Joe Biden is the one who did that. And Joe Biden just set a precedent that Donald Trump can use in the future, that preemptive pardons are now something presidents can do. Presidents have not done this before Joe Biden. If you're upset about Donald Trump doing it in the future, you can thank Joe Biden. Notice how Democrats today are very quiet on Joe Biden. None of them wish to attack Joe Biden. None of them wish to vilify Joe Biden. They're in the mess they're in because of Joe Biden. And yet they can't bring themselves to do it. It's just remarkable that this is where the Democrats have landed. This hour of the program is brought to you by First Liberty Building and Loan. First Liberty's in Noonan, Georgia. But if you're in Sacramento listening on KSTE, or you're down in Lafayette, snowed in today, listening to me on the radio, they can help your business there as well. They help businesses in all 50 states, and they'd love to help your business grow. If you see opportunity in the coming economic environment and you want to grow, First Liberty might be able to help you. Reach out to them, firstlibertyga.com. If you need access to capital, like $750,000 or more to grow, well, you know what? First Liberty, they're there for you. FirstLibertyGA.com is their website. You can get all their contact info, FirstLibertyGA.com. When we come back, I got to get into these amazing sound bites from the American media losing their mind over Donald Trump. Greetings, conversationalists across the fruited plain. Welcome. Those of you in Purple Mountain's majesty, well, we got white beaches across Georgia today. It's actually snow. Headed in Florida, Louisiana, Alabama, Mississippi. I mean, we had, well, things I better not say on radio. Those aren't sheets on the ground in the South. Crack myself up and no one else. Everyone was like, I can't believe he just said that on the radio. There's snow everywhere, y'all. There is snow everywhere down here. It's starting to snow where I am. The phone number, if you want to be on the program, 877-973-7425. I want to skip the snow right now, and I want to focus on the absolute mental problems on the left. Yesterday, I mentioned that the left is not having a normal one. Left-wing institutions are run by psychotic, neurotic people. MSNBC is overwhelmed with a bunch of emotionally, mentally unstable women folk who do not have a sense of humor and are absolutely distraught over Donald Trump coming to office. I am not surprised that most of the women at MSNBC yesterday wore black. They are a hive mind of neuroses and groupthink. This is Nicole Wallace starting.
Hi, everyone. It's all happening. It's 5 o'clock here in New York, and in Washington, D.C., we just witnessed the first inauguration of a convicted felon to become the president of the United States of America. Donald Trump was sworn into office in front of a crowd inside the Capitol Rotunda, flanked by family, past presidents, member of Congress, and a whole bunch of tech industry billionaires who were very, very close to him. He will soon deliver remarks for the third time today at the Capital One Arena in D.C. He'll give those remarks right before he signs a barrage of executive orders, many of which are targeted at immigration. And
She looked like she'd been crying. These people are upset. By the way, notice how the tech billionaires are only a problem now that they've decided to recognize Donald Trump. The left was perfectly fine with the tech billionaires. They were perfectly fine with Elon Musk when they thought he was on their side. They were perfectly fine with Tim Cook, who they still think is on their side, but are upset he was there. They were fine with Mark Zuckerberg for years. They were fine with all the tech billionaires who now must be blind. It's much like the United States Supreme Court. It's the same problem. The left, when they controlled or thought they had a leg up on the Supreme Court, were perfectly fine with the Supreme Court. Not a damn thing changed except for control of the Supreme Court ideologically, and now it's some sort of malignant institution. Anything the left does not control must be vilified and condemned. And MSNBC is a propaganda machine for the left, and these people have serious emotional instability. On radio, you cannot see Nicole Wallace's face, but she looks flushed. She looks like she's been crying at the thought of Donald Trump going back into the White House. She's wearing black, as if she's at a funeral. They were all wearing black. These people are neurotic. And by the way, they hate you. This is Matthew Dowd on MSNBC. Listen to this.
The combined wealth of the few hundred billionaires in America, which Elon Musk and Zuckerberg and Jeff Bezos are part of, are the leaders of, have more wealth than the 75 million people who voted for Vice President Harris combined. The few hundred billionaires have more wealth than 75 million people who voted for the vice president combined in this. Mm-hmm. And I think it's incredible. It's an incredible situation. And the problem I see is the same thing repeating itself of what happened in the Civil War and the aftermath, where the working class whites of the South, who had nothing to benefit by maintaining the system, nothing, because they got nothing out of it. They got nothing out of the plantations. They got nothing out of it, but were convinced because of cultural sort of language and division that the white working class, who should have sided with the North in this and should have sided with more freedom and should have sided with the freed slaves, ended up becoming part of that sort of awful thing. And that led through civil rights, and that powerful people, and this is my fear today, Back then, powerful people convinced the white working class was not the rich wasn't the enemy who were gobbling up everything. It was these cultural elites that were the enemy in their mind. And it's the same thing is happening today. The powerful people are trying to segment off the white working class who are getting no benefit from this and will suffer in the Trump presidency. But the same thing is repeating itself in our country again.
Like that, you white working class people are too stupid to figure out what's in your own best interest. If only you had Matthew Dow and Joy Reid to tell you. Here's the list of the wealthiest Americans. Elon Musk, Trump supporter. Jeff Bezos, I have a hard time believing he's a Trump supporter. Mark Zuckerberg, yep. Larry Ellison, yep. Warren Buffett, absolutely not. Larry Page, Sergey Brin, notice how they want nothing to do with Donald Trump. Steve Ballmer, definitely a lib. Bill Gates, a lib. Michael Bloomberg, lib. Jensen Hong, believe he is on the left. Michael Dell is on the right. I don't know whether he supported Trump or Harris. The Walton family there. Charles Koch on the right. Jeff Yass is a Trump supporter. John Mars and Jacqueline Mars. I don't know. Steven Schwartzman. I thought he was a lib. Ken Griffin on the right. Thomas Petterfy on the right. Phil Knight, big lib. Mackenzie Scott, Jeff Bezos' ex, definitely a Kamala Harris supporter. You got a pretty significant divide up and down Forbes' list of the 400 wealthiest Americans. You have a massive, massive array of very progressive people there. And yet they're only focused on Musk and Bezos and Zuckerberg. Those are the top three wealthiest Americans because they control institutions, Twitter, Amazon, and Facebook, that the left thinks should be on their side. And because they're not, they're having a meltdown with them. And you got Matthew Dowd's commentary on MSNBC that they think that the working class of this country are a bunch of stupid poor people who need government to give them welfare, and they're too stupid to know what's in their best interest. You got that? If you don't have a college degree, you're too stupid to know what's in your best interest. You need Joy Reid and Matthew Dowd to explain it to you. The level of arrogance from these people. And then it's not just them having a total normal one here. Listen to this conversation on CNN where they literally go, the military analyst who is a lib goes to the Stalin conversation. It's absolutely bizarre there. Listen to this.
Colonel, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, one of the most respected positions in the military. What message does this send, do you think, on a night like this?
Well, it's quite an extraordinary message, Laura, because the chairman is the #1 ranking military officer in the United States.
And I should stop right there. The outrage is that they took Mark Milley's picture down at the Pentagon yesterday. The former chairman of the Joint Chiefs Staff, they took his picture down. Trump wanted his picture gone. They took it down. And this is what this is about.
In that capacity. This is the very first time that a portrait like this has been removed from the wall at the Pentagon in the hall in the E-ring where these portraits hang. So the message that it sends is basically one of intimidation to the military leadership, to the brass. And it basically says you serve at the pleasure of the president, which is true. I mean, that is what the law says. But it also means that their tenure could be very short-lived if they displease the president.
Do you think this will land well with the rank and file members to know that somebody who is so senior literally has his picture, I guess, kind of snatched off the wall?
It's almost Stalinist in terms of removing from the wall and
almost Stalinist. Removing Mark Milley's picture from the wall is almost all. And she's like, what about the enlisted? Do you think the enlisted will like it? First of all, who cares? They serve at the pleasure of the president of the United States. Secondly, do you people not know any enlisted members of the military? Because I know a lot of them, and not a single one of them liked Mark Milley. I literally do not know a single enlisted member of the military who liked the former Joint Chiefs of Staff and thought he was competent. I don't know. And I know a lot of them. I know a lot of members of the military. That you would have someone on there thinking that this is going to impact the morale of the enlisted. They're probably celebrating it. Did you not see the video of the Virginia Military Institute at 2 a.m. when over the loudspeaker they declared Donald Trump would be president of the United States? They awoke from their beds and cheered. How out of touch are you people in the press? And then, of course, there is PBS, which went full Nazi on Elon Musk.
And Stephanie, there was a now controversial moment earlier today where Elon Musk gave these back-to-back gestures that people are saying mimicked a Nazi salute. You see it there. Elon Musk has not directly addressed this, but he has appeared to edit out that gesture from the video that he posted on X, the platform he, of course, owns. Help us understand what transpired.
Yeah, and it's interesting that Elon Musk does not appear to be on the podium with the president now, even though he was with him throughout the day. I don't know if that was scheduled or not. We did see Mr. Musk during that speech, and we saw the gesture. I don't know whether the audience here interpreted it the way it was subsequently interpreted on social media. It certainly appears to be a Heil Hitler. But at the time, what he was saying, we went back to the transcript, and I remember him saying it, is he was saying, "My heart goes out to you." So he was gesturing to his chest. And then, of course, there was the hand straight out, which harkens back, of course, for a lot of folks to the Nazi salute. But we didn't see that reaction here. There wasn't like a gasp or a pause or any even reinforcement of the gesture. So it's a little.
We didn't see them react because they're all Nazis too. My gosh, these people are insufferable. He says, "My heart goes out to you." And he does a gesture like he's throwing his heart out to the crowd. "My heart goes out to you." And he throws it out. Even the Anti-Defamation League came out and said, "This isn't a Nazi salute. Calm down, people." I mean, the context, "my heart," and he says "my heart" with his hand over his chest, "goes out to you," and he flings his arm out like he's throwing his heart out. If anything, you could say, "Oh my God, Elon Musk pretended to be throwing his body parts across the crowd. How disgusting." No, they went full Hitler. Never go full Hitler. Y'all, the American press corps, there was an old saying about the Bourbons of France. They learned nothing and they forgot nothing. Our American press corps has gone straight back to Hitler. We have Nazi sympathizers marching on college campuses, but they're on the left, so the media ignores them. Elon Musk, overwhelmed with emotion, and autistic, socially awkward goober who happens to be a billionaire, says, "My heart goes out to you," and acts like he's throwing his heart out at the people. They're like, "Oh, Hitler, 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 seek hail. It was a hail Hitler." She literally, the PBS were, and by the way, why do my tax dollars subsidize an idiot on PBS thinking he went full hail Hitler, saying "my heart goes out to you," and then proceeds to look like he's throwing his heart out on the crowd? There are plenty of Democrats who have given outstretched arm images captured on tape, and no one in the media said, "Oh, it looks like they went full Hitler," because of course they're on their side. They would never accuse them of that. Y'all, one of my concerns in present society is, on the left and the right, growing anti-Semitism, growing racism. There were people who claimed to be MAGA yesterday in full meltdown that a rabbi would give a benediction at Donald Trump's inaugural celebration. There are MAGA people who were upset that Donald Trump would commemorate the hostages in Israel at his event last night. These people are not really MAGA. They claim to be. They're anti-Semites, and they're on the rise in this country on the left and the right. And because the left calls everyone they disagree with a racist, and everyone they disagree with is a bigot, and everyone they disagree with is a misogynist, and everyone they disagree with is a Nazi, no one is. They call everyone that, and so no one takes it seriously. And so the result is that real Nazi sympathies are on the rise in corners of this country, on the left too. And because the left calls everyone they disagree with a Nazi, nobody takes it seriously. And we're headed towards a very dark place because members of the media cannot help themselves. They are so broken by Donald Trump. They hate him so much, they can't be reasonable. And by the way, this is why, according to Gallup, trust in Congress for the first time ever is higher than trust in the American press corps. And instead of trying to exercise some humility and self-reflection, the idiots in the press corps are doubling down on stupid. They might as well go out of business.
He's got the courage to tell you the actual truth, even when it isn't popular. It's the Erick Erickson Show.
Welcome. It is Erick Erickson here. So I should tell you there is some controversy. Donald Trump went to a national prayer service at the National Cathedral today, and the Episcopalian bishop proceeded to turn the national prayer service into a lecture on Donald Trump about protecting the scared illegal immigrants and transgendered people and members of the LGBTQIA TTPIAQZA7665 ampersand exclamation mark gang. I don't know what anyone in the White House expected of Donald Trump. He should have found a Christian prayer service instead of an Episcopalian prayer service. I mean, if I were president of the United States, I wouldn't set foot in an Episcopal church. I'd go find some Christians and hang out with them. What do you think? You're getting neo-paganism from the Episcopalian church these days. I realize there are a few people left in that church who actually believe in the Jesus of the Bible, but the Episcopalian leadership is post-Christian. They're a bunch of secular pagans who use the name of Jesus to browbeat people into progressivism. It's a dying church, and I don't mean that other than exactly as it seems that the last Episcopalian has been born in the United States of America. It is the most rapidly dying church in America. Why? Because the moment they decided to reject Christianity, the church started dying, as God has a plan for churches. It's not a coincidence. The United Church of Christ, the Presbyterian Church USA, the Episcopal Church, they are the three most rapidly declining churches in America. Why? Because they decided to reject God in favor of the world. They're now a bunch of pagan denominations filled with a smattering of Christians too lazy to go find a real Christian church. Of course, he was going to get lectured by pagans at an Episcopal service. They are pagans. Oh, now I've insulted all of you. Who cares? I'm right. You know it. Let's move on. All right. I need to tell you about, yes, AFP, Americans for Prosperity. They, my friends, I'm going to go do an event for them. By the way, I'm not going to be here on Friday because I'm going to go do an event for Americans for Prosperity. They would love to have you on their team. They have chapters in virtually every state. They'd love to be in your state. They'd love to have you with them. Americansforprosperity.org is their website. They are the largest leading grassroots group in the United States of America, and they educate people about free markets and freedom, and they advocate for common sense conservative solutions. They are pushing for a lot of Donald Trump's executive orders successfully and for his tax cuts. They'd love to have you on the team. All you have to do is go to americansforprosperity.org. Americansforprosperity.org. I'm on their action board. You can be with them too. Join me with AFP. Hello, welcome. It's Erick Erickson here. I need someone from DFAX to go to my producer's home and do a well check. I do believe that his children have done him in. It's elder abuse, basically. He is so old. He is so old, and it is elder abuse what his children taking a snow day are doing to him, it seems like. I may be slightly older than him, but I mean, he lived a hard young life. Oh, y'all, so kids in North Georgia are out of school today because it's cold. It builds character. They're afraid that the snow may head north. So this is the problem here in the South is this winter storm that's blowing through. They don't know just how far north the snow is going to go, but they know it's going to happen if it happens before school is out today. So they shut down all the schools in North Georgia. And parents are stuck home being terrorized by their children today. My son got out at noon today. Where we are, and I don't think he's going to be able to go to school tomorrow because the snow is really going to hit here after 4 o'clock today. It's not going to get back above freezing by tomorrow. In fact, I'm probably going to wind up taking my radio equipment out of my studio home with me and do my show from home tomorrow because I don't think the roads are going to be passable. It's just kind of a wild setup. In any event, welcome back. It is Erick Erickson here across the nation. The phone number is 877-973-7425. I want to talk about this 24 hours of Donald Trump. And whether you wish him well or not, whether you hope for the best or not, whether you think it's going to be a disaster, whether you like him or not, I find it wild. Like, for example, let me read you a tweet from someone. Diana in Winter, time traveler from California, she calls herself on Twitter. Books, art, photography, nature, history, ancestry, research, screenwriting, a slice of California living. That's how she describes herself. And she says, are you comfortable with Trump not putting his hand on the Bible during his oath? Or concerned with Elon Musk's arm salute? I think conservatives like you are going to be twisting themselves into pretzels trying to explain these behaviors. We deserve better. No, you don't deserve better, Diana. I'm sorry. The voters of America voted for him. In fact, he won the popular vote. First time the Republicans done that since 2004. You don't deserve better. You get exactly what you deserve, exactly what the people voted for. No, I'm not, by the way, concerned with Donald Trump not putting his hand on the Bible. I was until I paid attention to the video. The fact that people are whipping into a frenzy over Donald Trump not laying his hand on the Bible, go watch the tape and let me give you the backstory. The oath of office for President of the United States, historically going back to George Washington, happens at noon. On Friday, Donald Trump announced that the inauguration would be moved inside. Maybe it was Thursday. Announced because of weather, the inauguration would be moved inside the Capitol. They had Friday, Saturday, and Sunday to scramble to get it done. On Monday, they were running behind. If you bother to pay attention to the timing, John Roberts was rushing Donald Trump to make sure that the oath happened as close to noon as possible, because in the American political tradition, at noon, the presidency changes hands. Whether Donald Trump is sworn in or not, the presidency changes hands at noon on Inauguration Day. And given the peaceful transfer of power and all of that, the Chief Justice has an obligation to get the president sworn in as quickly as possible at noon. And if you pay attention to the video at all, it's very clear that they're rushing to get this done. He gets Trump up there and immediately starts swearing him in before he even has time to think, oh gosh, I got to put my hand on the Bible. No, I didn't think it was a big deal at all. I really did not think it was a big deal. This was a rush. He clearly wasn't thinking. He wasn't asked to lay your hand on the Bible, whatever he was. No one had time to tell him. They get up there and Roberts immediately goes into the oath because it needs to happen as close to noon as possible for the transition of power. You understand this, right? This is a quirk of the American constitutional tradition that the transfer of power happens at noon, but Donald Trump can't exercise the power until he's been sworn in. So the nuclear football has literally changed seats. Like literally, the nuclear football has shifted position to Donald Trump at exactly noon, and he's not sworn in as president yet, can't exercise the powers. John Roberts is rushing to get it done. And Trump rushes, and so he didn't get his hand up. No, I'm not worked up about that. Elon Musk and his salute. No, I've already explained that. He said, "My heart goes out to you," and he throws it out like he's pulling his heart out of his chest and throwing it. That's what happened. And if you don't believe it, stop listening to MSNBC. Stop listening to PBS. Go watch it and put it in proper context yourself. And don't default to these are Nazis, which is the problem. Too many people on the left are defaulting to they're Nazis. And so they see what they look as a salute, and they ignore that. My heart goes out to you. And he squeezes over his chest like he's pulling his heart out and throws it. That's what was happening. He's a socially awkward billionaire goober with autism. You know what? I'm not going to tie myself in pretzels. And this is the weird thing is as it grows. The following grows, the show grows, people grow. The Trump supporters get mad at me because I criticize Donald Trump. The people who hate Donald Trump get mad at me because they think I'm some sort of MAGA loyalist. I assure you, I am not a MAGA loyalist. I tell you exactly what I think. Whether Trump likes it or not, I couldn't care less. And here's the thing. I want everyone, whether you like me, like my show or not, to at least appreciate this. For the last 8 months in a row, in the largest talk radio market in the country, I've been the #1 show in the demo, 25 to 54, and I have not had a single Trump surrogate on my radio show to advocate for his reelection. I have criticized him where I thought it was appropriate. I have praised him where I thought it was appropriate. I got to be #1 not riding Donald Trump's coattails. I did not have to have him come on my show and get airtime to boost my ratings. I did not have to bring on his surrogates to it. I did it myself with you, my audience, in conversation with you. I am not beholden to Donald Trump as others might be. In 2016, I was the only major conservative radio show host in America to oppose Donald Trump's election. I didn't like him, thought he had terrible character, and thought he was going to get in office and be a big lib. I was wrong. I'm glad I was wrong. I didn't lose my job because I had not ridden anybody's coattails. I told you what I thought. In fact, I am the only person in radio today as a conservative who in 2016 did not support Donald Trump. Everybody else lost their job except me. Why? Because of my audience loyalty, because you know that I'm not going to lie to you. And I'm going to tell you what I think, whether you agree with it or not. And I'm going to be a straight shooter with you, and I'm a conservative, and I'm a Christian. The number of people who somehow think I owe my career to Donald Trump haven't been paying attention. The number of Trump supporters who think I despise the man. He's not my cup of tea, but I don't despise him. He does a lot of things I like, but you're not allowed to have this nuance anymore in this country. And here's why some of you who are Trump supporters are going to be really hacked off with the man for the next 4 years because he owes you nothing now. Donald Trump doesn't owe you anything. The history of American presidents is that in the second term, presidents start thinking about their legacy. And in the process of thinking about their legacy, the presidents of the United States often make deals, cut compromises, and do things that their base doesn't like, but the majority of Americans do. Ronald Reagan, George W. Bush, Barack Obama, they all cut deals in their second term. Bill Clinton, they wouldn't have done in their first term because they owe you nothing now. It's like term limited members of Congress or who are not term limited, but they've decided they're not going to run again. They suddenly become wild cards in the Senate and the House. They suddenly vote differently because they know there's no accountability from the voters ever again. I realize that there is this perverse fiction on the left that Donald Trump is going to try to run for office again, that Donald Trump is going to try to hold on to power. It's your level of brokenness and mental defect that has you believing that. Donald Trump's not. For you to believe that is to believe that Donald Trump is stronger than the Constitution, and Donald Trump is not stronger than the Constitution. The Constitution is far stronger than any one man, including Donald Trump. He will go in 4 years, and in 2 years, he'll be a lame duck because in 2 years, his political party will start start looking for someone else to lead it. And Donald Trump will begin to fade as J.D. Vance or someone else rises. For the next 2 years, Donald Trump's got a lot to accomplish. And Donald Trump is very, very loyal to his base, and he wants to keep his base happy. But also, Donald Trump wants a legacy. Donald Trump does want to be liked. And Donald Trump does want to reposition America. And Donald Trump does want to finish this political realignment that's been happening in the country. And what I think you're going to find over the next 4 years is that some of you who are very loyal to Donald Trump are going to find you outside the majority of his coalition. And some of you outside the coalition are going to find yourself inside the coalition as things finalize within the political realignment of the American socio-political and economic structure. Trump owes you nothing now. For those of you who are his loyal supporters, he's going to give you as much as he can as payback and reward for bringing him back to office. But he owes you nothing at this point. He's term limited. He can do whatever he wants. George W. Bush, his second term, decided to put Harriet Miers on the Supreme Court. He owed the base nothing. They got him elected again. He kept his promises to them the first term. He kept promises to them the second term. He wanted Harriet Miers. The base had to go to war with him. Immigration reform. The base went to war with him. Social Security reform. The base did not go to war with him. The establishment went to war with him. Ronald Reagan cutting immigration deals, tax reform packages in his second term that he would never have done in his first term. Bill Clinton cutting deals with Republicans after 1996. Barack Obama with Republicans on sequestration and other budgetary matters in his second term. This is not going to be the first term of Donald Trump. And the biggest reason it's not going to be the second, or the repeat of the first term is because Trump's been there before. He knows what to do now. He can move quicker. And I can tell you from talking to people close to Donald Trump, he understands he has 2 years. His term is 4 years, but he's only got 2. Because then Republicans start worrying about the midterm elections. And after the midterms, maybe Republicans don't keep Congress. Maybe they don't keep the House. Maybe they keep the Senate. But then those next 2 years are obsession about an open seat in 2028 for the presidency. And Donald Trump begins to fade from that conversation. Through it all, I'm going to tell you exactly what I think, whether I like it or not. Like, I don't like what he did with TikTok. I think that's bad. I think TikTok is a Chinese spy site that is trying to indoctrinate our children to hate this country, and he should let it die. By the way, Apple has announced it's going to enforce the law. If you own TikTok, if it's on your phone right now, you can still use it, but you can't get an update to it. You can't do any updates, and you can't download it now. That's what the law says. Trump's going to be a disruptor. Whether you like him or not, some of you who don't, if you're intellectually honest, may find he does things you now like. If you're intellectually honest and you're a supporter, you may find he does things now that you dislike. I'll tell you the whole way through, whether I like it or not, I do not owe my career to him. I am not beholden to him, and I'm certainly not beholden to MAGA. Many of them think that I'm just a Trump hater. I just happen to be a conservative. I haven't changed. I can't think of hardly a single issue on planet Earth that I have changed on in the last 10 years. Very few things. The lines have moved. I haven't moved. But I'll tell you what I think. And when he does something good, I'll praise it. When he does something I don't like, I'll criticize it. And when he does things that whip people on the left into existential frenzy and terror, and I think, why bother? Well, I'll tell people on the left, calm down, you're being hysterical. And too many of them are behaving like little emotional children right now. He just won an election. He just got sworn in. Give him time. Being outraged from the moment he gets elected until the time that he leaves is bad for your health. And also, it's not very intellectually honest. Let me tell you about the Eden Pure Gen 40 heater. I don't have it on, but I'm about to. My legs are getting cold. It is a heater that can help you save money on your heating bills. In fact, I've got one at home too, and I used it last night in my garage. The garage was closed, but I wanted to make sure that the pipes didn't freeze because it'd be so cold last night. So I got my Eden Pure Gen 40 heater in there, and it kept the garage reasonably comfortable. And it uses infrared heating. It uses convection heating. It oscillates. It tilts up and down and turns side to side. It can heat a room using 2 forms of heating technology, and it can help you save on your heating bills. By the way, It's also on sale, and you get $50 off if you go to EdenPureDeals.com and use the discount code ERIC50, ERIC50. Go to EdenPureDeals.com. Put in ERIC50, your discount code on the front page of the website. It'll take you through the portal to the Eden Pure Gen 40 heater. It uses infrared. It uses convection. In the summer, by the way, you can turn off the heating and use it as a floor fan just to circulate the air. And it still does the tilting up and down and turning side to side with just the fan on. It circulates air very efficiently to cool you down in the summer and keep you warm in the winter. EdenPureDeals.com. The discount code is ERIC50, no space, ERIC50 at EdenPureDeals.com.
You can follow Eric around on social media at EW Erickson on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. And check him out at EWErickson.com.
Welcome back. It's Erick Erickson here. So, okay. So this is a great case in point for everybody here. I don't want to pick on the lady, but she's listening right now. She goes by Wacky Woman 50 on Twitter. Listening to your radio show. Yep, I think you're too hard on Trump. God does not expect us to be perfect. Have you ever understood grace? Also, everyone needs forgiveness. Even you. Sometimes pious people judge others, which is sin. My goodness gracious. So today I started my show defending Donald Trump for exercising his pardons after people were convicted and sent to prison, not before, like Joe Biden. Defended Donald Trump against the allegations that he is a Stalinist. Defended Elon Musk for throwing his heart to the crowd. Defended Donald Trump for his executive orders on immigration, that he was loving his neighbor by putting American citizens ahead of illegal immigrants. And yet, I'm being too hard on Donald Trump and don't I know great. See, and I found, by the way, it's got to be over 60 because it's always the older people who get the most upset and start lecturing me on judging others, completely, by the way, taking out of context the statement from the Bible. You see, you can't win with some people. I've literally today, the only thing I've criticized Donald Trump about is TikTok. I've defended him on everything else, and yet I judge Donald Trump too harshly. Unless I'm willing to actually put a picture of Donald Trump on my computer screen and do indecent things on camera to myself staring at his picture, these people are going to convince that I'm just too mean to Donald Trump. You can't win with some people, and I've kind of learned that over time. And all I want to do is tell you the truth as best I can get to it. I'm not propagandize you. I'm not going to hump a politician's leg for you. I'm not going to debase myself as so many people have. Look at the Democrats. I don't want to behave like the Democrats. For 4 years, the Democrats lied to us, said everything Biden did was hunky-dory and fine, that he was normal, and on his way out the door, he does these despicable pardons, and they can't bring themselves to criticize him. You know, if you never criticize your own side eventually goes off the cliff because no one stood up from within the tribe and said, hey, this is wrong, we shouldn't do it. And fewer people ever want to do that because the mob comes for him and tells him, shut up, you need to get back on his leg. You got to get back to humping his leg. You can't hold him accountable. Don't you say anything. Don't you dare question it. He's the grandmaster strategist. Don't judge him. And the next thing you know, you get wiped out and the people turn on you because no one wanted to hold their own side accountable. If you don't hold your own side accountable, the voters will hold your side accountable. All my job is to keep you entertained and informed with what's going on in the world and tell you what it is. If that upsets you, maybe you need to go listen to somebody else because I'm not going to change. It's worked real good for me. I'll praise him when I need to praise him. And I got a lot to praise him about when we come back with these immigration orders. My goodness, the left is melting down over them. Hello, America. Welcome. It's Erick Erickson here across America from a winter wonderland shaping up in the South. It is snowing outside my office window now here in Middle Georgia. The South just getting hit with a major winter storm from Houston, Texas, all the way over into the Carolinas. Savannah, Georgia, on the coast, expected to get 10 inches of snow. My kids just got notified their school is shut down tomorrow. They were made to go home at noon today before the snow. I sent my office home about 1 o'clock, right before the snow hit. We'll see if I can get home today. I'll probably do my show from home tomorrow, assuming I can make it there. The phone number, if you want to be on the program, 877-973-7425. I got to begin this hour with the other executive orders. There were lots of executive orders. There were over 200 executive orders signed by Donald Trump. This is perhaps one of the biggest that he signed. This is President Trump from the White House last night.
So this is a proclamation declaring a national emergency at the southern border of the United States?
That's a big one. A lot of big ones, huh? You know what that means, Jim?
President Trump, did President Biden leave you a letter?
He may have. Right.
So, by the way, I got to continue this one because this became a funny moment with Peter Doocy, where, it's a tradition that was begun by George H.W. Bush for Bill Clinton. George H.W. Bush left a letter for Bill Clinton that essentially said, you're the president now. I wish you the best. You're my president, too. And each president thereafter has left a letter. I don't know that Trump left one for Biden. I know Obama left one for Trump. But Peter Doocy asked Trump about that last night.
President Trump, did President Biden leave you a letter?
He may have. Wait. Don't they leave it in the desk? I don't know. Oh.
What's in there?
Thank you, Peter. It could have been years before we found it. Wow. Thank you.
Can you please say on the outside?
Maybe we should all read it together.
Let's read it.
Well, maybe I'll read it first and then make that
That
determination.
sounds great.
Peter, thank you very much. I may not have seen this for months.
Happy to help with the passing of the torch.
I did. I left him one in the desk just like this.
What are you talking about in the limo?
Unification of our country. I didn't know that he gave a pardon to his family because he did it during my speech.
He didn't tell you in the limo?
No, he didn't tell me. No. He did it. They released it during my speech. During my speech. So all I could do was say, excuse me, I'd like to come back and speak some more. So, no, we were surprised by that.
By the way, the letter was not addressed to Donald or to Mr. Trump or to Mr. President. It just says on the outside 47. You can see that. We don't know what it says. Yeah, I haven't seen. Maybe by now people know. I haven't seen the headlines today to know. But he that happened in the process of Donald Trump signing an executive order declaring a state of emergency at our border. But he also did something else related to that. He declared the Mexican drug cartels foreign terrorist organizations. I have called for this for 8 years. Towards the end of the Trump administration, the first time, he was headed in that direction. But with COVID happening and everything else, they never got around to it. And I pushed hard. Friends of mine pushed hard and made the legal case. And what's happened over the last number of years is, honestly, I want to give credit to the folks at the Texas Public Policy Foundation. Texas Public Policy Foundation, most of you, if you're not in Texas, you're not familiar with it. I think it probably is the best state level think tank. So there's something called the State Policy Network on the right, where almost every state has a think tank about how to advance conservative policy in that state. Some states have more than one. I think one of the very best in the country is called the Texas Public Policy Foundation. Kevin Roberts at the Heritage Foundation, who I've been very critical of late with some of the things Heritage did, but I very much like and respect Kevin Roberts. He was at Texas Public Policy Foundation. Brooke Roberts was as well. It has been essentially a farm team for Trump and other Republicans in Washington. They have brilliant minds at the Texas Public Policy Foundation, and they began to lay the groundwork for what Donald Trump did last night. And I'm going to give them credit. They deserve the credit because I know the vast amount of work TPPF has done in the last number of years to make the legal case for designating the Mexican drug cartels a foreign terrorist organization, and also for using the military to secure the to secure the southern border. Let me explain to you the case for using the military, because there are a lot of people on the left today completely melting down over the fact that Donald Trump is sending the military to the southern border. The Constitution of the United States of America guarantees that every state will have a Republican form of government. And that form of government, you could in theory have a governor and a prime minister in a state. No state has set it up that way. Every state set up largely the same way. Nebraska has a unicameral legislature, but most other state, pretty much every other state, has a Senate and a House and a governor. You could have a governor who's largely a figurehead with a prime minister and a parliament. You could do that and guarantee a Republican form of government. But in the same section of the Constitution where the states will have a Republican government and the Congress shall ensure it, the Congress and the federal government will also ensure that those Republican governments of the states are secure from foreign invasion. The states in the Union are set up to be individual republics who have ceded limited control and power to Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C. is not a plenary government. Washington, D.C. is not a government of unlimited power. The states are. Washington has limited power, but one of the powers in Washington, D.C. is to preserve and protect the states from foreign invasion. Our states are being invaded by foreign adversaries in the form of drug cartels from Mexico who are violent, who shoot at police, who shoot at law enforcement, who endanger the lives of American citizens. And all of this, the Biden administration turned a blind eye towards. The Texas Public Policy Foundation, based on this provision of the Constitution, made the legal argument that, yes, the states have a right to defend itself. Texas has a right to secure its border in the absence of help from Washington, but Washington has a legal obligation under the Constitution to protect and defend the United States of America and the individual states from foreign invasion. And Donald Trump agrees. And he should be praised for that. Donald Trump understands that the Mexican military doesn't have the wherewithal to invade us. No country has the wherewithal to invade us. But, when we launched our Revolutionary War against Great Britain, they were the best trained military on planet Earth. And Washington and his soldiers, in many ways, used guerrilla campaigns against them. And the Mexican drug cartels are doing that against us. They're running up the border. They're coming over in the night. You know what they do is they use the coyotes, the human traffickers, to send a pile of people into the country where they know that the Border Patrol is going to be. And as those people are coming across the border, they've paid the coyotes to get them into the country. They've been set up by the coyotes to show up where the Border Patrol is. The Border Patrol gets overwhelmed with the sea of humanity that's coming in, and then the drug cartels send the drug runners through a different route where now the Border Patrol is not, because they're where the crowd is, to get their drugs into the country. And the Chinese are making the drugs, working with the drug cartels, poisoning our kids, poisoning our husbands and wives, our fathers, our mothers, our children, our brothers, our sisters, and Washington has seemed to not give one whit about it. J.D. Vance understands the tragedy drugs can have in a community and in a family and how they can collapse a family. He's lived that life. He knows the scourge of drugs. Donald Trump's older brother, Fred, was an alcoholic. Trump's a teetotaler. Trump does not drink. He has said before he preferred it if his kids didn't, but they do. He's seen firsthand addiction hurt a family. He knows the effects of addiction. And he's decided finally to take seriously the drug cartels. Mexico is a failed narco state, by the way. Because Donald Trump recognizes this, the American press corps doesn't want to acknowledge it. But Mexico is a failed state. The president of Mexico is believed to be in the pocket of the drug cartels. There's vast amounts of corruption in Mexico. There are parts of Mexico no one can go to because the drug cartels control it. Increasingly, in Cancun and other places, Americans aren't safe. I have a friend whose cousin was kidnapped by the drug cartels and fed fentanyl and abused until she managed to, God bless her, escape. I know people who have run afoul of the drug cartels. I know someone whose relatives were murdered because they strayed too far out of civilization into Mexico going exploring and it wasn't safe. Mexico is a failed state. It is a third world kleptocracy run by drug lords with politicians in their pocket. And Donald Trump is right to declare the drug cartels foreign terrorist organizations. They terrorize the people of Mexico, they terrorize the tourists of Mexico, and they terrorize American citizens here in the United States. Trinda Agagua or whatever it is, I can't pronounce the name of it. The Venezuelan gang. One day I'll learn how to pronounce it, but you know the one I'm talking about? They're run out of the prisons of Venezuela. Venezuela allowed those gang members to come into the United States and set up shop intentionally by design. The Venezuelan regime did this. Designating them a foreign terrorist organization allows extra resources to be deployed to root them out and get them out of the country. In some places, that gang from Venezuela runs assassination rings. The thing that sets this Venezuelan gang apart from MS-13, which is a violent gang in itself, is that the Venezuelan gang targets the family members of law enforcement. So you, the law enforcement officer trying to arrest the gang members, understand they're going to target your kids. They're terrorists. They should be treated as such. And for 4 years, the Biden administration made excuses for Mexico, denied there was a problem, and refused to do anything about the gangs. Donald Trump has decided to come in and put Americans first with an American first policy, and that includes taking on the gangs that are spreading fentanyl and other poisons into the communities of America, degrading our communities and breaking them down. He should be praised for that. And you know what he's got instead? Condemnation from the media for having the audacity to treat terrorists as terrorists. It was a bold move by Donald Trump. It was a big move by Donald Trump. And I have nothing but praise for Donald Trump doing that. It was the right move. I'm proud of TPPF for advancing the ball so far that it gained enough traction to nationally be taken up by Donald Trump. And I am very proud of Donald Trump for having the guts to do what neither Obama nor Biden had the courage to do. It's the right thing to do. These groups are terrorists, and we should use any means necessary to root them out and destroy them.
Well connected and well respected. It's Erick Erickson live every weekday.
Welcome back. It's Erick Erickson here. Let's go to the phones here. Jim's been waiting patiently. Welcome to the show, Jim. How are you? Yeah. Yeah, look, it's one of the things about like the rise of modern conspiracy, Gyms, that I try to explain to people is that so much of the reason for the rise of conspiracy theories is you're taking a complicated world and you're trying to make it very simple, or you're taking something very simple and you have to make it complicated. And one of the underlying ties that bind them is people who can't accept the consequences of their own actions. They've got to find it's the hidden hand. If you screw up your life, if you fail at life, if you make bad decisions, you don't want to acknowledge your personal responsibility, so it's got to be somebody else. And for the left, they believe that any election which denies them power is an illegitimate election. And they got to blame Donald Trump, but they don't believe Donald Trump is smart enough to deny them the election. Therefore, it's got to be the hidden hand. It's got to be Elon Musk. It's got to be the Russians. It's got to be something because they can't acknowledge they've been outfoxed by Donald Trump. Even though they have. Even though they have. I just we're gonna have 4 years of whining from these people. Everything Donald Trump does, they're going to whine about. And look, there are things he's going to do, and y'all know I'm going to not like them, and I'm going to tell you I don't like them. But what I just find wild is the people who they like something until Donald Trump likes it too, and then suddenly they have to hate it because he likes it. Like Jen Rubin, who left the Washington Post for parts unknown, was famously a champion of moving the embassy in Israel from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. And the moment Donald Trump did, she's like, this is terrible. He's going to start a war. Why would he do such a thing? And she was like, well, I think if Donald Trump did it, I have to reassess my priors, and maybe I was wrong because he's incapable of doing anything right. That was kind of her thing. I was like, no, you're just insane. You're an insane, crazy, angry person, and life is too short to be constantly crazy and angry about stuff, particularly stuff you can't control. But man, people turn politics into a religion, and they got to worship at one altar or the other. Now, let me tell you about Hillsdale, which actually, by the way, so y'all should take the Genesis class from Hillsdale. Speaking of idol worship and stuff, it's actually very good. It explores the literary themes and the theology of Genesis. If you go to erickforhillsdale.com, ERICK, erickforhillsdale.com, you can sign up. It's completely free of charge. It's 6 classes. They're like 30-minute lectures from a quality Hillsdale professor. They're engaging. They're interesting. They do a great job on not just the literary traditions of Genesis, but the theology behind Genesis, wrapping it into an echo of what's to come and foreshadowing of what's to come, not an echo of what's to come. It's really well done. They've got one on the Constitution. They got one on C.S. Lewis. They got about 40 of them. You can take them at your own pace. Take all of them. They're great. There is no charge from Hillsdale College for this. None at all. All you need to do is go to Erick, ERICK, erickforhillsdale.com. Sign up today with Hillsdale College. Improve your mind and understand what sets Hillsdale apart. The phone number, 877-973-7425. There's some breaking news. Danielle Hegseth is the former sister-in-law of Pete Hegseth, has released a sworn affidavit claiming that his second wife, her sister, feared for her safety. Interestingly, very interestingly, she added that part of her reason for coming forward is because I have been assured that making this public statement will ensure that certain senators who are still on the fence will vote against Hegseth's nomination. We need to process this. Daniel Hegseth, former sister-in-law of Pete Hegseth, and I don't know why Danielle Hegseth has the same last name. Was it but it's Danielle Hegseth, submitted an affidavit in response to a January 18th letter from Senator Jack Reed seeking, quote, a statement attesting to your personal knowledge about Mr. Hegseth's fitness to occupy the important position. Danielle Hegseth, Pete Hegseth's former sister-in-law, is asked to detail what she knew of instances of abuse or threats of abuse perpetrated against any other person and mistreatment of a spouse, former spouse, or other members of his family, among other requests. Interestingly enough, Samantha Hegseth, Pete Hegseth's ex-wife, responded in an email saying, first and foremost, I have not and will not comment on my marriage to Pete Hegseth. I do not have representatives speaking on my behalf, nor have I ever asked anyone to share or speak about the details of my marriage on my behalf, whether it be a reporter, a committee member, a transition team member, etc. I do not believe your information is accurate, and I have CC'd my lawyer. Asked what information was not accurate, she said there was no physical abuse in my marriage. This is the only further statement I will make to you. I have let you know that I am not speaking and will not speak on my marriage to Pete. Please respect this decision. It was an acrimonious divorce. Ms. Dietrich, according to Tim Parlatore, Pete Hegseth's lawyer, says Ms. Dietrich has had an axe to grind against the entire Hegseth family. Ms. Dietrich admits she saw nothing, but is now falsely accusing Sam of lying to both the court and to the FBI because of private undocumented statements that she allegedly made 10 years before. Interesting. I have no idea. But what is interesting is that the former sister-in-law of Pete Hegseth says, quote, I have chosen to come forward publicly at significant personal sacrifice because I am deeply concerned by what Hegseth's confirmation would mean for our military and country, and because I have been assured that making the public statement will ensure that certain senators who are still on the fence will vote against Hegseth's confirmation, but for the assurance I would not subject myself or others referred to in the statement to the public scrutiny this statement is likely to cause. So someone told Pete Hegseth's former sister-in-law that if she came forward with a public statement, it would sabotage his nomination. Pete Hegseth's ex-wife, this woman's sister, has come forward and says, there was no physical abuse in our marriage and I will not talk to anyone. Leave me alone. And also, no one is speaking on her behalf. No, she has asked no one to do anything. She wants nothing to do with this. She will say nothing to no one. Leave her alone. So someone convinced Pete Hegseth's ex-wife's sister to file an affidavit alleging some sort of abuse, claiming that if she did it, it would sabotage Pete Hegseth. Who made that claim? Who told the woman that it would sabotage Pete Hegseth? We need that answer. We need that answer. Also, you should note that Pete Hegseth's ex-wife denies the claims and says she wants nothing to do with it. Someone's trying to sabotage Pete Hegseth using his ex-sister-in-law, and his ex-wife wants nothing to do with it. and someone told the sister-in-law if she did it, it would sabotage the nomination. There are a lot more questions than answers here, and none of them are about Hegseth. They're about what dirty tricks the Democrats are playing. I got to tell you, as someone who paid attention to what they did to Brett Kavanaugh, I know you Democrats are convinced that any Republican nominee Donald Trump puts forward is probably a woman beater, an abuser, and a misogynist and what have you. I'm sorry, but you're going to have to show me the videotaped evidence that Pete Hegseth was abusive. Now, listen, no, is he a good person? No, he's made terrible mistakes in his life. He's on like his third marriage. But I'm real sorry. You people would find a way to attack Jesus Christ if Jesus Christ were the defense secretary nominee. Y'all would find a way to lie about Jesus. Y'all would accuse Jesus if Jesus were the nominee. Because I know what the Democrats do. Look at what they did to Brett Kavanaugh. They savaged that man. They tried to ruin him. And then when he got on the Supreme Court, you had an assassin try to kill him, and the Democrats have dragged their feet on prosecuting the would-be assassin. So, no, I'm sorry. You Democrats do this all the time. This is right out of your playbook. Next, you'll assume that you'll call him a Nazi. Wait, they've already gone after him for his tattoo. It's being some sort of white supremacy neo-Nazi tattoo. I forgive me, but the Democrats do this to everyone. I'm tapping out. I don't know whether it's true or not, but I've seen enough from the Democrats to know that they don't care. They're just trying to destroy a man. So I'll move on from there because this is breaking news. The affidavit has just come forward, and the woman very clearly says that she's doing it because she was told that if she did it, it would stop Pete Hegseth's confirmation. Now, I got asked by a lot of people, what does it mean that Donald Trump is doing a terrorist designation for the drug cartels in Mexico? Quite a lot, actually. By designating the Mexican drug cartels as terrorist organizations, it makes it very easy for American authorities to seize any bank accounts they have in this country and to freeze funds related to them. Not only that, but it also allows the U.S. government to crack down on and impose penalties and criminal actions against those businesses that do business with the Mexican drug cartels. In this particular case, the Mexican drug cartels are headed by families, and it makes the lives of those families very miserable. Donald Trump can impose sanctions on those families, seize assets and bank accounts from those families, have them arrested, or otherwise make their lives miserable when they travel. Designating the drug cartels as foreign terrorist organizations is a good thing, makes the cost of doing business for the drug cartels goes up significantly, and allows the U.S. government to impose sanctions on the drug cartels. It's a very good decision that Donald Trump made. Now, yes, I gotta play you this. This is Stephanie Rule again. They're all, I think maybe she was in navy blue instead of black, but almost all the women at MSNBC yesterday, they weren't having a normal one. They decided to go for funeral black for the most part. This is how Stephanie, I played you on Nicole Wallace starter show. This is Stephanie Rule.
It is day one of the second Trump administration. Donald Trump has been president for a grand total of 11 hours, and he wasted no time imposing his will on American government. Tonight, he announced he was pardoning or commuting the sentences of virtually everyone involved in the January 6th attack on the Capitol. That includes Stuart Rhodes, remember that name? The founder of the Oath Keepers, and Enrique Tarrio, the former leader of the Proud Boys. Both of these men were tried in federal court and convicted of seditious conspiracy.
Ooh, so scary. Look, I mean, as I said, I think some of these people did deserve a pardon, but none of you wanted to complain about Joe Biden's pardons. One of the other things Donald Trump has done, praise Jesus. In all seriousness, praise Jesus. He has suspended enforcement of the regulations about showers and faucets and toilets and dishwashers and washing machines. My buddy Vince is a home builder in Atlanta. And one day, when I have the money, when my finances are in order, I've won the lottery, I have in my head a big house. Everybody, when their kids go to college, they downsize. I'm going to upsize. I want a big house. And Vince is going to build it for me. It's going to have a golf simulator. It's going to have an amazing man cave. You're going to go through like a Chronicles of Narnia wardrobe into the man cave, and you open it up, and there's this big golf simulator, lots of TVs, and a humidor, and a big bourbon collection, and the air is going to flow through it so my wife doesn't get mad that Philip and I are smoking inside, and it's going to open up onto a patio, and there's going to be heaters out there so you can sit on the patio. It's going to be glorious. Vince is going to build it for me. One of the things I want is a car wash for a shower. Y'all, I love a shower. I love a hot shower. And I stayed in a place one time, and it turned out to be the guest house for someone very famous. And I didn't know. I was able to get it through Airbnb. As soon as after I did it, they took it off Airbnb, and I can't get it. But this guy had a shower, and it had like 12 shower heads in it. They came up from the bottom. They came at you from the sides. They came to you from above you. There was a handheld. It had a seat. The seat was heated. It had a button you could press, and it turned into a steam room. It was glorious, and the floors were heated. Tile floors were heated. It was wonderful. It was up in the mountains, up at Lake Burton. It was glorious. Oh my gosh, and the water pressure was amazing. It wanted to take your skin off. The water pressure was so great. I loved it. I want a shower where I can just stand in it in my birthday suit, spread my arms out, and it just sprays me from every angle and cleans every inch of my body and maybe takes some skin off. The water pressure is so hard. I loved that. And it was forever hot water. You never had to run out of hot water. The Biden regime nearly would have deprived me of that, because they have continued to scale back the flow rate of showers. They claim we have to save water. Now, they don't want you to make the choice. They want government to deny you choice. That's essentially what's going on here. They're trying to deny you choice. And Donald Trump has decided, no, you and I should have the choice. If we want a shower that pours out more water onto our bodies, we should be allowed to. God bless you, Mr. President. Donald Trump believes that perhaps in America, it should not take us 3 hours for the dishwasher to wash the dishes. I'm not talking about our wives. I'm talking about the actual appliance. Donald Trump believes that your toilet should be able to hold enough water to actually flush. And he believes that you shouldn't have to wait 90 minutes for your bathtub to fill out with hot water for you to be able to take a bath. He is a great American in this regard. He appreciates the desires of the American people. I got to tell you, one of the worst things ever now are these modern dishwashers. If you have an old dishwasher, you better hold on to that thing your entire life if you can, because I've got a new bleeding edge, super quiet, super fast dishwasher, and it still takes like 2.5 hours to wash the dishes because of the stupid regulations from not just the Biden administration, but the Obama administration. And Trump rolled those regulations back, and Biden reimposed them. And so Trump's rolling them back again. Or like the stupid auto start stop on cars these days. I've got it on my car. You get to a stoplight, your foot's on the brake, and the engine turns off. You know, the engine rollover, turning over, constantly coming on and on. My goodness gracious. Just does wear and tear on your car. And when Trump was in office, you could get those switches taken out. You could have it turned off. Now you have to remember to push the button every time. I've got it in my car. Every time I get in the car, I got to remember to push the button. And by the way, Donald Trump's not saying he's banning these things. He's just saying you should have choice. Democrats love choice when it comes to whether or not you murder a child, but they don't want you to have any other choice on planet Earth, particularly when it comes to what sort of shower head you have or vehicle you have. Donald Trump is giving people choice. Donald Trump believes in choice. Donald Trump is pro-choice, not when it comes to murdering your kid, but when it comes to actually giving you choice in how you live your life and the products you buy. God bless him for that. Between bank collapses and more teetering on the brink, and regulators possibly now thinking of raising interest rates instead of lowering interest rates, with interest rates as high as they are, Swiss America has been the trusted leader in precious metals for 40 years, and they've been warning people about a secret war on cash. If you're interested in safeguarding your hard-earned cash from this war, you should get their critical free report. They're rated A+ by the Better Business Bureau. Swiss America can educate you on protecting your assets. The report is called The Secret War on Cash. I've read it. It takes less than 15 minutes to read. They do a very good job of explaining it to you, how the government tracks your cash purchases, and by the way, how they're spreading into crypto purchases. They're trying to snoop on every aspect of your life and purchases, even when you try to use cash to anonymize your purchases. Get this free Secret War on Cash report from Swiss America by calling or texting 800-289-2646. The all-out war on cash includes digital forms of currency, and it's growing. All you have to do is mention Erick, E-R-I-C-K. When you call or text 800-289-2646, the report's completely free. Just mention Erick. When you call or text 800-289-2646, message and data rates may apply.
Well connected and well respected. It's Erick Erickson live every weekday.
Greetings here. Let's go to Alex's phone call here at the end. Alex, welcome to the Erick Erickson Show. How are you? I can hear you. Oh, yeah. She's the worst. Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah, so Jennifer Granholm, Canadian, former governor of Michigan, very, very liberal. She's the one who told Americans that if they were like her, she was driving on sunshine with her electric car. We should all have one. On her way out the door, she made a bunch of grants to green energy companies, trying to get in good with them. I'm wondering if the money's going to be recalled by the Trump administration or attempted to be recalled. She was given that power as the energy secretary to be able to advance the Green New Deal. And whether you or I like it, she had the power to do it. If the Trump administration can't come behind her and fix it, that money's going to get spent. A total con job. These people have no shame. They do not care. They are perfectly happy to do these things and advance their agenda. At least normalcy is back in Washington, D.C. You know, this is kind of the weird, it was Tim Walsh who called J.D. Vance and Donald Trump and them weird. That dude is weird. It is the weird people of the Democratic Party who are just having meltdowns. So I want you to listen to this. This is a Democrat. Well, no, I don't have time for it. This weird kid on Twitter basically says, if you're a Republican, I think you should be hunted down and killed for what you've done. If you interact with me on TikTok, I'm going to find you and kill you if you're a Republican for what you've done to the country. What do? They brought someone back to the White House who, for all of his faults, isn't insane with this woke nonsense. Restoring decency to the office, frankly, given what we just saw from 4 years of Joe Biden, whether you want to believe it or not. As much as I may disagree with him, at least I think Donald Trump is more often than not right on stuff. The left has just come unhinged. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow, assuming I survive Snowmageddon down here. See you.